Welcome to Momentum Mind, where we turn powerful ideas into action and uncover the mindset secrets behind success. Today, we're diving into a story that will challenge the way you think, push your limits, and inspire you to take your next step forward. Are you ready to transform your mindset? The Door That Whispered. The town sat in a shallow valley where the air always felt a little too still, as if the wind had forgotten how to move. Buildings leaned into one another like tired shoulders, painted in soft colors that had faded under years of doubt and routine. People walked with their eyes lowered, careful with their steps, careful with their words, careful with their hopes. In this place, being careful was praised. Trying was not. In the middle of the town stood a school made of gray stone and tall windows. Inside, voices echoed down long halls, bouncing off walls covered with rules, warnings, and reminders of what not to do. The classroom smelled of chalk dust and old paper. Desks were arranged in straight lines, all facing forward, as if curiosity itself had been told to sit still. Among the students was a boy who often sat near the back. His name was never spoken loudly. He preferred it that way. He listened more than he talked, watched more than he acted. When questions were asked, his hand stayed on the desk. When challenges were offered, he felt something tighten in his chest and told himself it was better not to risk it. He had learned early that mistakes left marks. A wrong answer could bring laughter. A failed attempt could turn into a label that followed you everywhere. In this town, people collected labels the way others collected souvenirs. Some were called talented. Some were called smart. Others were called hopeless. Once a label stuck, it was rarely peeled away. The boy believed his label had already been chosen. Each day followed the same rhythm. Wake, walk, sit, listen, repeat. Teachers spoke of ability as if it were a fixed thing, like eye color or height. You either had it or you did not. Those who answered quickly were praised. Those who hesitated faded into the background. The boy faded well, yet there was something restless inside him, a quiet itch he could not scratch. When he looked out the window during lessons, he imagined places beyond the valley. He imagined worlds where trying was louder than failing, where effort left footprints worth following. These thoughts felt dangerous, so he kept them hidden. One afternoon, after the bell released the halls into a rush of noise, the boy lingered. The school emptied, footsteps fading, voices dissolving into silence. He wandered without a plan, passing doors he had never opened. At the end of a corridor he rarely visited, he noticed something strange. A door stood slightly ajar. It was small, set low into the wall, as if made for someone who was not quite ready to stand tall. The wood was warm and smooth, nothing like the cold stone around it. Faint light spilled through the gap, pulsing gently, like a breath. The boy stopped. No sign marked the door. No rule warned against entering. That alone made his heart beat faster. He reached out, then pulled his hand back. He told himself it was nothing. Probably a storage room. Probably locked. Probably not meant for him. The door creaked softly, as if responding to his thoughts. He swallowed and pushed. The world on the other side was nothing like the school. He stepped into a wide space that stretched far beyond what the walls could possibly hold. The air shimmered, alive with movement. Paths curved and twisted across rolling ground, glowing faintly underfoot. Above him, the sky shifted colors, not changing suddenly, but flowing like ink in water. Figures moved along the paths. Some ran, some walked, some stumbled and fell, then stood again. Laughter drifted through the air, mixed with groans and muttered words of frustration. No one seemed to mind being watched. No one seemed ashamed of trying. The boy took a step forward. The ground responded, brightening beneath his foot. A voice spoke behind him. You found it. He turned and saw a woman standing near the door. Her clothes were simple, her eyes sharp and kind at the same time. She held no book, no clipboard, no list of rules. Where am I? He asked. She smiled. Some call it the place where becoming begins. He frowned. I don't belong here. Everyone says that at first, she replied. She gestured to the paths. This place grows when people test themselves. It feeds on effort. It changes shape when someone refuses to quit. As if on cue, the ground rippled nearby. A figure stumbled, dropped to their knees, then laughed and stood again. The path beneath them glowed brighter. The boy felt something stir inside him. Hope, maybe. Fear, certainly. What happens if you fail? He asked. The woman looked at him carefully. Then you learn. That's it? That is everything. He watched the others more closely now. None of them looked perfect. Some moved awkwardly. Some struggled again and again. but their faces were alive. Focused. Free. I was told failing means you are not good enough, the boy said. The woman nodded. That is a story told by people who stopped trying. She knelt and touched the ground. Images shimmered in the air, showing moments frozen in light. A child falling while learning to walk. Another missing a target, then adjusting their aim. Someone standing before a crowd, voice shaking, then growing steadier. Ability is not a gift, she said softly. It is a process. The boy's chest tightened again, but this time it felt different. Less like fear. More like pressure before a leap. He took another step forward. The path beneath him flickered, uncertain. Why me? He asked. Why not? The woman replied. He hesitated. The habits of the valley clung to him. The fear of labels. The comfort of hiding. He imagined stepping fully onto the path and failing in front of everyone. The thought made his stomach twist. The ground dimmed. The woman did not rush him. She simply watched, patient as the sky above. In the distance, the boy saw someone fall hard. The sound echoed. For a moment, the figure stayed down. Then, slowly, they rose. The path flared with light brighter than before. Something inside the boy shifted. He stepped forward again, placing both feet on the glowing path. The ground steadied. A warmth spread through him, not loud or overwhelming, but steady and real. The space around him seemed to lean closer, as if listening. The woman smiled wider now. Careful, she said. Once you begin, the old stories will fight to pull you back. The boy looked toward the door he had entered through. It seemed smaller now, farther away. What happens next? He asked. The woman's eyes flicked toward the twisting paths ahead, where shadows moved and the light pulsed unevenly. You will be tested, she said. Not by others. By yourself. The air shifted. Somewhere deeper in the place, something stirred, heavy and watchful. The path beneath the boy trembled, and then, far ahead, a challenge took shape. The weight of trying. The path stretched forward, narrowing as it curved into a landscape that felt less welcoming than before. The colors of the sky dimmed, settling into deeper shades that pressed down on the boy's shoulders. With each step, the warmth beneath his feet faded slightly, replaced by a strange heaviness, as if the ground itself were asking a question. The woman remained behind, her figure blurring into the shifting light. She did not follow. Somehow, the boy understood that this part of the journey could not be shared. Ahead, the path widened into a clearing where the air felt thick and slow. Tall shapes rose from the ground like pillars carved from shadow. They leaned inward, forming a ring around the center of the space. At the heart of the clearing stood a mirror. It was taller than the boy, its surface dark and smooth. No frame held it. It hovered slightly above the ground, humming softly, like something alive. He stopped at the edge of the clearing. A voice rose from the mirror, low and familiar. So you decided to try. The boy flinched. The voice sounded like his own, but sharper. Older. Tired. I didn't say you could speak, he muttered. The surface of the mirror rippled. Slowly, an image formed. It was him, but not quite. This version stood straighter, eyes narrowed, arms crossed. You think this changes anything? The reflection asked. Trying won't make you special. The boy felt the old tightening in his chest return. This feeling he knew well. It had followed him for as long as he could remember. What if I fail? He asked. The reflection smiled. You will. The word echoed through the clearing, bouncing off the pillars, growing louder with each return. You'll fail and prove what you already suspect, the reflection continued. That you're not meant for more. That effort is just a slower way to lose. The boy looked down at the ground. The path beneath him flickered. Around the clearing, the shadows shifted, forming shapes that whispered. Snippets of memory floated in the air. A classroom laugh. A teacher's sigh. A moment of hesitation that turned into regret. The mirror glowed brighter. See, the reflection said. You remember. The boy clenched his fists. You're just fear. The reflection tilted its head. I'm protection. If you don't try, you can't be disappointed. If you don't hope, you can't be hurt. The ground beneath the boy dimmed further. He wanted to turn back. The door suddenly felt very far away, but the comfort of the valley tugged at him. Quiet days. Low expectations. Safe invisibility. The mirror pulsed. People like you don't change, the reflection said softly now. People like you stay where they belong. The boy's breathing grew shallow. The clearing seemed to shrink. Then he noticed something. On the surface of the mirror, behind the reflection, faint images flickered. Different versions of himself, layered like shadows. One stumbling forward. one reaching out. One standing tall, face lit with something like pride. "What are those?" he asked. The reflection glanced back, startled for the first time. "Nothing." The images grew clearer. Each showed the boy trying something new. Speaking when his voice shook. Standing again after falling. Staying when it would have been easier to leave. "These aren't promises," the reflection snapped. "They're possibilities. And possibilities are dangerous." "Why?" the boy asked. "Because they mean you're responsible." The word landed heavy. The boy felt it settle inside him. Responsibility meant failure was no longer something that happened to him. It meant effort mattered. It meant he could no longer hide behind excuses or labels. The mirror cracked, the thin line split the surface, light leaking through. The reflection stepped back, its confidence faltering. "If you keep going, you'll feel pain," it warned. "Real pain." The boy stepped closer to the mirror. With each step, the path beneath him brightened, pushing back against the shadows. "I already do," he said quietly. The mirror shattered, fragments fell like dark glass, dissolving before they touched the ground. The clearing exhaled, the air lifting, the shadows retreating into the pillars. The boy stood alone, heart racing. The path ahead reformed, brighter than before, but steeper. It climbed sharply, disappearing into a fog that pulsed with shifting light. As he took his first step upward, the weight returned, heavier now. Each movement demanded effort. His legs burned. His breath came hard. Halfway up the climb, he stumbled and fell to one knee. The ground dimmed instantly. A whisper slid through the fog. "See?" He froze. The old instinct screamed at him to stay down. To accept it. To stop, but then he remembered the figures he had seen earlier. Falling. Rising. The glow that followed. He pushed himself up. The path flared. The fog thickened, forming shapes that blocked his view. The climb grew steeper still, forcing him to lean forward, hands scraping against the glowing surface. With each step, memories surfaced. Times he had avoided raising his hand. Moments he had walked away before trying. The regret burned more sharply than the effort. At the top of the climb, the path leveled out into another clearing. This one was quieter. Empty, except for a single stone resting in the center. The stone was smooth and dark, heavy-looking despite its size. As the boy approached, words appeared on its surface, glowing faintly. "Not yet." He frowned. A voice echoed from nowhere and everywhere. "Carry it." He hesitated, then lifted the stone. It was heavier than it looked, pulling at his arms, straining his grip. "What is it?" he asked. The voice replied, calm and unyielding. "The weight of becoming." As he held the stone, the path ahead began to change, stretching farther than before. The boy realized with a sinking feeling that the stone was not meant to be dropped. The path curved into darkness, and somewhere ahead, something waited, patient and watching, ready to test how long he could carry the weight of trying. The garden of almosts. The darkness ahead softened as the boy walked, the weight of the stone pulling his arms downward with every step. The path narrowed again, winding gently until the air grew warmer and sweeter. A scent drifted toward him, rich and alive, unlike anything he had known in the valley. Slowly, the shadows thinned, revealing a wide garden spread beneath an open sky. Tall plants rose on either side of the path, their leaves broad and luminous, shifting colors as if reacting to his presence. Vines curled upward, heavy with fruit that glowed softly, each one pulsing with a light that felt familiar. The ground here did not glow steadily like before. It flickered, uncertain, responding to his pace. He stepped into the garden, and the stone in his arms grew heavier. The plants leaned closer, their leaves brushing his shoulders. As he passed, whispers stirred the air. Gentle at first. Almost kind. "You were close," one voice murmured. "So close," said another. He slowed. The words tugged at something inside him. He turned toward the nearest plant. Hanging from it was a fruit unlike the others, its surface clear like glass. Inside, an image moved. He leaned closer and saw himself standing in a classroom, hand half raised, then lowering it as someone else spoke. The moment froze just before the decision slipped away. The fruit shimmered. "What is this place?" he whispered. The garden answered. Each step revealed more fruits, each holding a scene. A race he never entered. A conversation he avoided. A path he almost took. Every image glowed with possibility, then dimmed, looping endlessly. The stone grew heavier still, pressing against his chest. "You could have been," the whispers said. "You nearly were." The boy's breathing quickened. Regret filled the air, thick and clinging. He felt himself slowing, shoulders sagging under the weight he carried. At the center of the garden stood a figure. They were bent over, tending to the plants with careful movements. Their hair was streaked with silver, their back curved not with age, but with burden. As the boy approached, the figure looked up, their eyes were tired. "You've come carrying weight," the figure said, nodding toward the stone. "Yes," the boy replied. "It keeps getting heavier." The figure smiled sadly. "That happens here." They gestured around the garden. "This is where unfinished attempts grow." The boy looked at the fruits again. "They feel like failures." The figure shook their head. "No. They are attempts abandoned too early." The words settled uncomfortably. "I was trying to protect myself," the boy said. "So was I," the figure replied. They reached out and touched one of the fruits. It cracked, spilling light onto the ground. For a moment, the garden brightened. "I came here long ago," the figure continued. "I carried a stone like yours. But when it grew heavy, I stopped moving. I chose to tend what might have been instead of risking what could be." The boy tightened his grip on the stone. "Is that wrong?" The figure's gaze drifted across the garden. "It is safe. But it is not light." The whispers grew louder now, circling. "You tried," they said. "That should be enough." The path behind the boy flickered faintly, offering an easy retreat into the familiar glow. The stone trembled in his arms, he felt the temptation sink into him. The garden was beautiful in a painful way. It asked nothing more than remembering. No falling. No rising. Just almost. "What happens if I stay?" he asked. The figure hesitated. "The stone will not leave you. But you will stop noticing its weight. That is how most remain." The boy looked down at the stone. The words carved into it had changed. The glow now spelled something new. "Still trying." His arms burned. "What happens if I leave?" he asked. The figure met his eyes. "You will drop some of these almosts. Not because they don't matter, but because you cannot carry every version of yourself." The whispers sharpened, their tone shifting. "You'll forget us," they hissed. "You'll waste what you nearly became." The boy's chest tightened. Guilt rose, sharp and insistent. "I don't want to lose them," he said. "You won't," the figure replied gently. "They live in you, not here." The boy took a shaky step toward the path that cut through the garden. The ground flickered brighter beneath his feet, the plants recoiled slightly, leaves rustling in protest, the stone pulsed. With each step forward, the garden tugged at him, images flashing faster now. Missed chances piled upon missed chances, the weight pressing harder, urging him to stop, to kneel, to rest. His knees buckled, the ground dimmed. He dropped to one knee, the stone slipping slightly. Panic surged. The whispers swelled, triumphant. "Yes," they crooned. "Stay." The boy closed his eyes. He remembered the mirror. The climb. The warmth that came after effort. He remembered standing up. He pushed himself upright, the path flared brighter than it ever had before. The stone lightened, just a little. The garden screamed, vines lashed toward him, trying to pull him back. Fruits shattered as he passed, their images dissolving into light that flowed into his chest instead of the ground. The figure at the center watched, eyes shining with something like relief. "Go," they said softly. The boy broke into a run, the garden blurred around him, whispers fading into echoes. The path narrowed, lifting upward once more. At the edge of the garden, he glanced back. The figure raised a hand in farewell. The garden dimmed, settling into stillness. The boy emerged onto a ridge where the air was cold and sharp. Ahead, the path led toward a towering structure rising from the mist. It was built from overlapping shapes, some smooth, some jagged, constantly shifting as if undecided. At its base, a low sound rumbled, steady and deep. The stone in his arms grew warm. On its surface, new words began to glow, slow and deliberate. "Try again," and from within the shifting structure, something moved, adjusting itself, preparing to meet him. The tower that changed shape. The ridge dropped sharply, guiding the boy toward the towering structure ahead. With every step downward, the air thickened, humming faintly as if charged with unseen energy. The tower loomed larger now, its surface constantly rearranging itself. Smooth stone slid into jagged edges. Solid walls softened into flexible curves. No single form held for long. The stone in the boy's arms pulsed in rhythm with the movement. At the base of the tower stood an entrance with no door. The opening breathed, expanding and contracting like a living thing. From within came the deep sound he had heard before, steady and relentless. He hesitated only a moment before stepping inside. The world shifted instantly. The interior was vast, far larger than the tower should have allowed. Platforms floated at different heights, connected by narrow bridges that bent and warped under invisible forces. Some bridges were straight and firm. Others swayed gently. A few twisted into spirals that disappeared into shadow. Above him, shapes moved along higher platforms. Below, echoes of movement hinted at unseen paths. A voice rolled through the space, not loud, but impossible to ignore. Choose. The boy looked around. Each bridge glowed faintly, its color shifting as he watched. Choose what? He asked. The voice did not answer. He stepped onto the nearest bridge. It felt solid at first, then softened beneath his foot. The surface rippled, forcing him to adjust his balance. He took another step, arms tightening around the stone. The bridge responded, stiffening slightly. As he moved forward, the tower changed. Walls slid aside. Platforms reassembled. The bridge curved, lifting him higher. The boy realized something with a jolt of fear and excitement. The tower was reacting to him. A tremor ran through the bridge. The stone grew heavier, images flickered in the air around him. Moments from his life appeared, each paired with a path he could have taken. Speaking or staying silent. Trying or stepping back. Each choice split into countless variations, branching endlessly. The bridge beneath him wobbled. So many ways to fall, he whispered. The voice returned, closer now. And yet, you stand. The bridge narrowed until it was barely wider than his feet. His heart pounded. One misstep would send him plunging into the shifting depths below. He slowed, breath steadying, eyes focused on the path directly ahead. The tower responded. The bridge steadied. A platform rose before him, and he stepped onto it gratefully. The stone pulsed warmly now, its glow brighter. Across the platform stood another figure. This one looked confident. Upright. Calm. They moved with ease, as if the shifting world obeyed them without resistance. You made it this far, the figure said. Their voice was familiar, but not sharp like the mirror's. It carried no mockery. Who are you? The boy asked. The figure smiled slightly. I am who you think you need to be before you try. They gestured, and the tower rearranged itself around them. Bridges straightened. Platforms locked into place. I'm not ready, the boy said quietly. The figure nodded. That belief builds walls. The stone in the boy's arms flared. You think confidence comes first, the figure continued. That certainty must arrive before action. But this place does not work that way. They stepped onto a bridge without hesitation. It hardened instantly. The boy followed, slower, careful. The bridge beneath him wavered, then steadied as he continued. The figure stopped and turned. Watch. They leapt. For a terrifying moment, the figure fell. Then the tower shifted, forming a platform beneath them just in time. They landed lightly, unharmed. The boy stared. You trusted it? No, the figure replied. I acted before trust. The words echoed through the space. The tower trembled again, stronger this time. Bridges twisted violently. Platforms collided and separated. The ground beneath the boy's feet pitched sideways. He stumbled, the stone slipped in his grasp. Instinct screamed at him to cling to it, but his fingers failed. The stone fell, tumbling into the depths below. The boy cried out. The tower went still. Silence pressed in, heavy and absolute. He dropped to his knees, staring into the darkness where the stone had vanished. The loss hit him harder than the weight ever had. Without it, he felt exposed. Unanchored. I failed, he whispered. The figure approached, crouching beside him. You learned. The boy shook his head. The stone was proof I was trying. The figure placed a hand on his shoulder. Trying is not something you carry. It is something you do. The tower began to hum again. From below, light rose, swirling upward. The stone emerged, floating gently, its surface changed. The boy reached for it. It felt lighter now. Warm, but no longer heavy. The words on it glowed softly. Keep going. The figure stood and stepped back. You no longer need me. The platforms shifted again, forming a single path upward. At its end, a narrow opening pulsed with intense light. As the boy moved toward it, the tower shook violently. Cracks raced along the walls. Structures collapsed and rebuilt in rapid succession. The voice returned one last time, deeper than before. This place will never stay still. The boy stepped onto the final bridge. It shook beneath him, more unstable than any before. Behind him, the tower groaned. Ahead, the light flickered. The bridge began to dissolve and the boy ran forward, unsure if the next step would exist until the moment his foot landed. The room where failure waited. The boy burst through the opening just as the bridge vanished behind him. He stumbled forward, catching himself on cold stone. The light dimmed instantly, settling into a muted glow that revealed a wide, enclosed room. It was quiet, too quiet. The walls were smooth and pale, stretching upward until they disappeared into shadow. The floor was flat and unmarked, except for a single line etched across its surface, running from one side of the room to the other. The stone rested in the boy's hands, warm but silent. A low sound rolled through the room, like a breath being drawn. Then shapes began to appear. They formed slowly, rising from the floor as if summoned by memory. Figures took shape, each one familiar in some way. A teacher with folded arms. A classmate with a smirk. A faceless crowd murmuring softly. At the far end of the room stood a raised platform. On it was a chair empty. The boy's chest tightened. A voice echoed from the walls, no longer calm. Step forward. His feet felt heavy, but he obeyed. As he crossed the etched line, the room shifted. The figures turned toward him in unison. Their eyes were not cruel. They were expectant. The boy felt the old pressure rise. The need to perform. To prove. To avoid embarrassment at all costs. What am I supposed to do? He asked. The stone in his hands flickered. The chair on the platform creaked softly, inviting. Sit, the voice said. He climbed onto the platform, every step echoing louder than it should have. When he sat, the chair adjusted beneath him, locking into place. The figures leaned closer. A screen of light formed in the air before him. It shimmered, then displayed an image. It showed the boy standing at the edge of something unfamiliar, about to try. The image froze. Begin, the voice commanded. The boy hesitated. Begin what? The light shifted, showing him attempting something new. The scene played forward. He failed. The image reset. Again, he tried. Again, he failed. Each time, the failure was louder. More public. The figures in the room reacted. Some frowned. Some whispered. Some turned away. The boy's breathing quickened. Stop, he said. The light continued. Failure after failure unfolded, each one sharper than the last. His mistakes were magnified, replayed, slowed down. The room felt smaller now. The figures closed in. You see, the voice said. This is what happens when you try. The boy gripped the stone tightly. It pulsed, but did not grow heavier. The screen changed. Now it showed others. People he had seen in the place of becoming. Falling. Stumbling. Failing openly, but something was different. They kept going. The figures in the room reacted again, but this time their whispers shifted. Confusion. Unease. Why do they continue? The boy asked. The voice faltered slightly. Because they are different. The boy leaned forward. No. They just stayed. The room trembled. The screen showed the same people later. Stronger. More capable. Still imperfect, but changed. The boy's heart pounded. The figures in the room began to blur, their shapes wavering. The voice grew louder, strained. Failure is final. The boy stood up. The chair released him. No, he said. Failure is feedback. The words felt solid as they left him, grounding him in a way nothing else had. The stone flared brightly. The etched line on the floor glowed, spreading outward like cracks of light. The figures recoiled, some dissolving entirely. The screen shattered. The room shook violently. The walls fractured, light pouring through the cracks. The voice echoed, breaking apart. You will fail again. The boy nodded. I know. The room fell silent. The remaining figures faded, leaving the space empty once more. The floor smoothed, the etched line vanishing. A new opening appeared where the chair had been, leading into darkness threaded with faint light. The boy stepped toward it. As he crossed the threshold, he glanced back. The room was already dissolving, its purpose fulfilled. Ahead, the path stretched onward, narrower now, but steady. The stone rested easily in his hands, its glow constant. From the darkness ahead came a new sound. Laughter. Warm, unafraid, and with it, the sense that the next challenge would not come from fear alone, but from something far more tempting. The circle of voices, the laughter grew clearer as the boy moved forward, echoing softly along the narrowing path. It wasn't cruel or mocking. It was bright, loose, and alive. The kind of laughter that carried confidence without effort. The darkness thinned, opening into a wide space shaped like a bowl. Stone steps descended toward the center, where a circle of people sat on the ground. A fire burned between them, its flames shifting colors, casting warm light across their faces. They noticed him immediately. Smiles spread. Heads turned. A few waved him closer, as if he had always been expected. The boy hesitated at the top of the steps. The stone in his hands pulsed gently, not heavy, not light, simply present. Come down, someone called. You're late. He took a step, then another, drawn by the warmth of the fire. The closer he came, the louder the voices grew, overlapping in easy conversation. The people in the circle were all different. Tall, short, young, old. Some wore marks of effort on their bodies. Scars. Calloused hands. Tired eyes paired with wide smiles. One figure shifted to make space for him. He Saturday immediately, the circle closed, comfortable and close. The fire crackled softly, its light reflecting in the stone. What is this place? The boy asked. A woman across from him grinned. Where stories are shared. A man beside her nodded. Where we remember who we are. Another leaned forward. Where doubt doesn't get the final word. The boy felt his shoulders relax without realizing it. The figure on the far side of the fire spoke, their voice steady and clear. Tell us why you came. The boy swallowed. Every instinct told him to stay quiet. To listen, not speak, but the fire flared slightly, encouraging. I was afraid to try, he said. The words came slowly at first, then faster. I thought failing meant something was wrong with me. The circle listened. No interruptions. No judgment. I carried a stone, he continued, lifting it slightly. It got heavier when I stopped moving. A murmur of recognition rippled through the group. One by one, they began to speak. I thought talent was something you were born with. I thought confidence came first. I thought mistakes erased progress. Each voice added weight to the fire, feeding it. The flames shifted, growing brighter. As they spoke, the boy noticed something strange. Their stories were not polished. Not heroic. They spoke of missteps, false starts, long stretches of doubt. Yet their voices held no shame. What made you stay? The boy asked. A woman with tired eyes smiled. I realized everyone else was failing too. They just didn't stop. The man beside her laughed softly. I learned to fail out loud. The circle hummed with agreement. The boy felt something loosen inside him. A knot he hadn't known how to untie. The fire flared again, and shadows danced along the bowl-shaped walls. In those shadows, he saw reflections of himself, sitting in the circle at different moments. Listening. Speaking. Laughing. The stone warmed further. You don't belong here yet, a voice said gently. The boy looked up. The figure who spoke was older, their posture relaxed, their gaze sharp. Why not? He asked. Because this place is easy, the figure replied. Support feels good. Belonging feels safe. The fire dimmed slightly. The boy frowned. Isn't that a bad thing? The figure shook their head. It's necessary. But it can become a hiding place. The circle grew quiet. If you stay too long, the figure continued, you'll only try when others are watching. Only risk what earns applause. The boy felt a chill run through him. Around the circle, some faces darkened with understanding. The fire shifted, its warmth becoming heavy, almost drowsy. The boy stood. I don't want to need permission to try, he said. The stone pulsed brightly in his hands. The circle watched him closely now. A few smiled sadly. Others nodded with approval. The older figure inclined their head. Then you must leave. The fire split, creating a narrow path of glowing embers leading out of the bowl. As the boy stepped onto it, voices called after him, remember us. Come back when you forget. Tell your story. He reached the edge of the bowl and turned back. The circle remained, steady and warm, but he could already feel how easy it would have been to stay. Beyond the embers, the path darkened again. This darkness felt different. Quieter. More private. As he stepped forward, the laughter faded behind him. Ahead, the stone began to change once more, its surface shifting, as if preparing for something that would have to be faced alone. The silent trial. The path narrowed until the boy could barely stretch his arms without brushing the walls. The darkness here was softer than before, not heavy or threatening, but intimate. The kind of quiet that pressed inward rather than down. His footsteps made no sound. Even his breathing seemed swallowed by the space. The stone in his hands no longer glowed. It was cool now. Still. Almost empty. He stopped. For the first time since entering this world, nothing happened. No voice. No shifting ground. No images rising to meet him. A long moment passed, then another. The boy felt a familiar itch stir beneath his skin. The urge to check, to ask, to be told what came next. He tightened his grip on the stone, waiting for it to pulse, to respond. It didn't. The path stretched ahead, flat and unchanging, disappearing into shadow. This is it, he whispered. The darkness gave no answer. He took a step forward. Nothing reacted. Another step. Still nothing. The boy frowned. Every place he had been before had responded to effort. This one seemed indifferent. He walked on, slow at first, then faster, then stopped again. No reaction. The silence grew louder, with no challenge pushing against him. His thoughts began to drift. Doubt surfaced quietly, slipping through the cracks. Maybe the place had abandoned him. Maybe the journey was over. Maybe this was all there was. The stone grew heavier, not with weight, but with meaning. It felt useless now. An object without purpose. He considered setting it down. A strange thought followed. No one would know. The idea settled in his chest, uncomfortable and tempting. There was no audience here. No fire. No mirrors. No voices to witness his effort or his quitting. The boy sat on the path, resting the stone in his lap. Time stretched, memories from the valley crept back. Long afternoons of doing just enough. Of stopping when no one was watching. Of effort fading when praise disappeared. He realized something then. Every test before had been loud. This one was quiet. The stone in his lap flickered faintly, reacting not to movement, but to attention. The boy straightened. "This is about me," he said softly. The darkness did not disagree. He stood and lifted the stone again. It was heavy now, but steady. He walked forward. With each step, the silence pressed harder, testing not his strength, but his willingness to continue without reassurance. His mind searched for signs of progress. For proof, there was none. The path remained unchanged. His legs ached. His shoulders burned. Doubt whispered, subtle and persuasive, "What if this effort leads nowhere? What if stopping feels the same as going on?" The stone pulsed once. The boy stopped and closed his eyes. He thought of the garden of almosts. Of the tower that shifted. Of the room where failure waited. Of the circle of voices. None of them were here now. This step was his alone. He took another step and another. The darkness began to thin, not suddenly. Not dramatically. Just enough for him to notice. The stone warmed slightly. The path beneath his feet gained texture, becoming more defined. The walls pulled back just a little. He kept walking. The light ahead grew stronger, but still distant. Each step felt earned in a way none before had. Finally, he reached a point where the path opened into a small clearing. Nothing stood there. No figure. No structure. No reward, only a single mark etched into the ground. He knelt to look closer. It was a footprint. His footprint. He turned, scanning the path behind him. More footprints had appeared, trailing back into the darkness. The boy felt a quiet pride rise in his chest, not sharp or loud, but deep and steady. He stood. The stone glowed again, brighter now, its surface smoothing until the words upon it changed once more. Keep showing up ahead. The clearing sloped downward, leading into a place filled with distant movement and sound. The quiet was ending, and the boy knew the next test would challenge not his courage, but his patience, in ways he was not yet ready to face. The market of comparisons. The slope carried the boy downward into noise and motion. The air grew crowded with sound, voices overlapping in sharp bursts, footsteps rushing past, bells chiming in uneven rhythms. Light flashed from every direction, reflecting off metal, glass, and polished stone. He stepped into a vast market. Stalls stretched as far as he could see, packed tightly together. Banners waved overhead, each one bearing symbols that shifted when he tried to focus on them. The ground beneath his feet glimmered, not steadily, but in sudden flashes, like sparks. People hurried past him, moving with purpose. Some walked tall, eyes forward. Others slouched, glancing sideways as they passed. All of them carried something in their hands. The boy looked down. The stone was still there, warm and steady. A vendor called out, "Trade?" The boy turned. The stall was piled high with objects that shimmered with allure. Medals. Crowns. Mirrors. Measuring rods etched with glowing marks. "What do they do?" he asked. The vendor smiled wide. "They tell you where you stand." The boy watched as another traveler approached. They handed over their stone and received a crown in return. The moment it touched their head, they straightened, smiling broadly. But as they walked away, they glanced around constantly, adjusting it, checking its shine against others. The boy's chest tightened. He moved deeper into the market. Everywhere he looked, people compared. They held their stones up side by side. They measured, weighed, ranked. Laughter erupted in one corner. Groans in another. A mirror stall caught his attention. Its surface reflected not his face, but someone else's. Taller. Faster. More confident. "Better, isn't it?" the stall keeper whispered. The boy stepped back. The stone pulsed uneasily. As he walked, the market began to press in on him. Voices rose, sharper now. "Look at them. They started later and passed you. You should be further by now." The ground flickered wildly beneath his feet. He noticed his steps slowing, his shoulders tensing. The stone grew heavier, its warmth fading. At the center of the market stood a tall tower of glass. Inside, figures climbed endlessly, their progress displayed on glowing panels for all to see. Cheers erupted when someone rose quickly. Silence followed those who slowed. The boy stopped, staring. He imagined himself inside the tower, climbing under watchful eyes. The thought both thrilled and terrified him. "You belong there," a voice murmured beside him. He turned to see a figure dressed in fine, reflective fabric. Their smile was practiced, their eyes restless. You've come far, the figure said. Why not see how you measure up? The stone in the boy's hands trembled. I don't know if I'm good enough, he admitted. The figure laughed lightly. That's what the market is for. They gestured toward the glass tower. In there, you'll always know your place. The boy watched someone stumble inside the tower. Their position dropped instantly. The crowd's attention shifted away. The stone grew cold. The boy felt his breath shorten. The market seemed to tilt, its noise growing louder, more frantic. He looked down at the stone. Its glow was faint now, struggling. A memory surfaced. The silent path. The footprints. The quiet pride that had needed no witness. He stepped away from the tower. The figure's smile faltered. You'll fall behind. The boy shook his head. I'll keep moving. He walked on, weaving through the stalls, ignoring the calls to trade, to measure, to rank. With each step away from the center, the noise softened. The ground steadied, the stone warmed again. At the edge of the market, he found a narrow exit, barely marked, overlooked by most. As he stepped through, the market's lights dimmed behind him. Ahead, the path stretched forward, calm and clear. But in the distance, something loomed that made his grip tighten. A wide gate stood across the path, closed tight, its surface carved with countless names. And as he approached, he realized some of the names were his own. The gate of names. The market's noise fell away completely as the boy stepped closer to the gate. Silence returned, heavier than before, carrying a sense of finality. The path beneath his feet slowed him, as if the ground itself wanted him to notice every step. The gate was enormous, stretching upward until it vanished into shadow. Its surface was carved from dark stone, polished smooth by countless hands. Names covered it from edge to edge, layered over one another, some etched deeply, others barely visible. The boy searched the surface. He found his name quickly. It appeared again and again, carved in different ways. Some versions were bold and clean. Others were scratched unevenly, as if written in haste or fear. A few were cracked down the middle. His throat tightened. What is this place? He whispered. The gate answered without sound. The names began to glow softly, one by one, illuminating scenes behind them. Each name revealed a version of a person at a moment of decision. He watched his own name brighten. Behind it, an image appeared. He saw himself standing at the edge of a choice, then stepping back. The image froze, then faded. Another version of his name glowed. This time, he stepped forward. He stumbled. He stood again. The gate hummed. The stone in his hands warmed, responding to the movement within the gate. A presence formed beside him. It was not a figure, not fully. More like a shape made of intention. Its voice was calm, neutral. Every name here belongs to someone who asked who they were, it said. The boy nodded slowly. Why are there so many versions of mine? Because you are not one thing, the presence replied. You are a collection of choices. The boy traced a finger over one carving. It felt rough beneath his touch. What happens here? He asked. The presence paused. You choose which name opens the gate. The boy stepped back, heart pounding. I don't understand. The gate responded by shifting. Two sections of the stone slid forward slightly, each glowing brighter than the rest. One side displayed names that shone with certainty. Clean lines. Strong shapes. Each image behind them showed success that looked effortless, admired by others. The other side glowed more softly. The names were uneven, rewritten many times. The images behind them showed struggle, persistence, quiet effort. The boy felt the pull of the first side immediately. The ease. The approval. The promise of being seen as enough. The stone trembled. If I choose wrong? He asked. There is no wrong, the presence said. But there is truth. The boy stepped closer to the gate. The names pulsed, reacting to his nearness. He remembered the market. The glass tower. The mirrors that showed him someone else. He remembered the silent path, the footprints no one else had seen. His grip tightened on the stone, the words upon it shimmered, then shifted once more. Be you again. He reached out and pressed his hand against the softer lit side of the gate. The stone grew hot, the gate resisted, pushing back with quiet force. Doubt surged. A voice whispered from the stone surface itself, echoing from the carvings. You could be more admired. You could be faster. You could be safer. The boy closed his eyes. I could be honest, he said. He pushed. The gate groaned, the sound deep and ancient. Slowly, reluctantly, it began to open. Light spilled through the widening gap, not blinding, but steady and warm. As the gate opened, some of the names faded, dissolving into the stone. Others deepened, carving themselves more firmly than before. The presence spoke once more. This path will not make you special. The boy stepped forward. I don't need special. He crossed the threshold. Behind him, the gate closed silently. Ahead, the path opened into a wide landscape bathed in soft light. Shapes moved in the distance, purposeful and calm. The air felt lighter, but charged with effort yet to come. The stone settled comfortably in his hands, its glow steady and true. Far ahead, something vast stirred, something that would test not his belief, nor his patience, but his willingness to keep becoming long after the journey stopped feeling new. The river of effort. The landscape beyond the gate stretched wide and open, yet it was alive in ways the boy hadn't expected. Soft hills rolled endlessly, their surfaces shimmering with faint light, as if the ground itself were breathing. A river ran through the valley below, its waters neither dark nor clear, but glowing faintly with a steady pulse that mirrored the beat of a heart. The boy walked toward it, feeling the stone in his hands warm and reassuring. It was heavy enough to remind him of effort, but light enough that he could move freely. He had learned that its weight was not punishment, but a signal. A reminder. As he approached the riverbank, he noticed others moving along the opposite shore. They were carrying stones like his own, each glowing softly. Some stumbled, some rested, some walked with steady pace. None of them rushed. None of them hesitated. They simply moved, step after step, their progress small but undeniable. A figure stepped from the water's edge, barefoot, dressed in simple robes that shimmered like the river itself. Their face was serene, but their eyes held a challenge. "Welcome," the figure said. "You have come far, yet your journey is only beginning." The boy nodded, unsure what to say. The river lapped gently at the stones beneath their feet, a quiet, insistent rhythm. "Why does it glow?" the boy asked. "The water, I mean." The figure smiled. "It reflects effort. Each step you take, each choice you make, each time you rise after falling, it all flows here. The river remembers." The boy looked down at the water. Tiny lights danced along its surface, swirling into patterns that seemed familiar. They pulsed gently, as if breathing, as if alive. "What happens if I stop?" he asked, his voice small. The figure's eyes narrowed slightly. "Then it flows past you. And you may find yourself behind, waiting for the current to return." The boy swallowed. He thought of the silent path, of the footprints that marked his passage. He realized he had been walking even when no one could see. Even when the world seemed indifferent, he had continued. The river had been waiting for this recognition all along. He lifted the stone higher, feeling its pulse match his own heartbeat. With careful steps, he entered the river, feeling the glow wrap around his ankles, then his knees. The waters shifted under him, never resisting, never carrying him forward. The current required nothing but motion. At first, he stumbled. The stones beneath were slippery, uneven. The glow flickered, warning him. Doubt whispered at the edges of his mind. He could stop. The river would not demand he continue, but he remembered the gate, the circle of voices, the room where failure waited. And he stepped again. With each motion, the river responded. Tiny streams of light rose around his legs, forming patterns that followed his movements. Every effort, no matter how small, left a trace. The stones in his path became brighter, warmer, as if the river itself approved. Further along, the river widened into a basin. In its center floated a small island, barely larger than a stepping stone. On it sat a tree, its branches twisted into shapes that seemed impossible, yet beautiful. The figure beside him nodded. "The tree grows from persistence. You may cross, but only if you keep moving." The boy glanced at the river. Its water swirled, reflecting infinite possibilities. He could see other travelers stumbling, resting, rising again. Some never reached the island. Some circled it endlessly, hesitant to step forward. The stone pulsed warmly, urging him on. He took a deep breath and began to wade deeper, each step deliberate, each movement demanding focus. The waters pulled at him, not forcefully, but insistently, challenging his rhythm. He stumbled once, his hands brushing the river's surface. Light flared around him, highlighting the spot, urging him to rise again. He did. Halfway across, he paused. The river whispered, soft and constant, images flashing across its surface. Moments he could have chosen differently, paths not taken, victories he had doubted, he saw them all. And then, for the first time, he realized something. It was not about avoiding failure. It was about moving through it. About leaving traces, however small, in the current of life. The glow of the river pulsed brighter as he resumed walking, every step now confident. The waters parted slightly, forming a narrow bridge of light beneath his feet. By the time he reached the small island, his chest ached, his legs burned, but his heart had never felt lighter. He stepped onto the island. The tree rose before him, its branches forming intricate patterns that glimmered like the river. At its base was a hollow, shaped perfectly for the stone. With a steady hand, he set the stone down. Immediately, the river surged around the island, spilling light into the branches. The tree shimmered, growing taller, more vibrant. Leaves twisted into shapes he could almost read, glowing with the accumulated effort of every step he had taken. The figure beside him spoke softly. Every step matters. Every effort leaves a mark, even if you cannot see it immediately. The boy nodded, chest heaving. He looked down at the stone, now warm but resting, as if satisfied, and from the water beyond, a new current began to stir, one wider, faster, more unpredictable than before. Something waited in that current, challenging him to move beyond comfort, beyond the known, and the boy realized the next step would demand not just effort, but courage in its purest form. The mountain that listened, beyond the river, the path began to rise, winding upward into a high, narrow valley. The air grew thinner, cooler, tinged with a crisp clarity that made every sound sharper, every breath heavier. The boy carried the stone in his hands, now steady, its glow subtle but persistent, like a heartbeat echoing inside him. The valley widened into a place where cliffs rose steeply on both sides. At the end, a mountain towered above, its peak hidden in swirling mist. Its surface was jagged yet smooth, carved with deep grooves that seemed to hum with anticipation. This was no ordinary mountain. It was alive, not in the way the river or the tower had moved, but in a quiet, patient way. It waited. It listened. The boy approached. The ground beneath him shifted slightly, soft and responsive. A faint wind whispered through the cliffs, carrying voices he had heard before, but faint now, distant, echoes of failure, echoes of effort, echoes of small victories. They swirled around him, not pressing, not judging, only reminding. At the base of the mountain stood a figure, seated on a flat stone, back straight, eyes closed. They did not rise as he approached. You've carried far, the figure said finally. But the mountain is different. It does not move for you. It only responds to what you offer it. The boy frowned. I don't understand. The figure opened their eyes, and for a moment the boy felt the weight of the stone grow warmer, heavier, as if echoing the mountain's expectation. Every step you take, the figure said, every effort, every failure, every rise after a fall, it all leaves an imprint. This mountain feels it. It remembers. It listens. The boy lifted the stone higher. And if I fail? The figure smiled faintly. Then it remembers that too. And you keep going. The mountain's groove seemed to shift, forming a narrow path that spiraled upward. It was steep, almost impossibly so. Wind gusted through the cliffs, testing his balance, tugging at his feet. Each step was deliberate, demanding concentration and willpower. The boy's legs burned, his arms ached from holding the stone, but he kept moving. Halfway up, the mountain changed. The grooves deepened, forming obstacles, jagged outcrops that forced him to step carefully, loose stones that shifted beneath his weight. Each misstep sent a tremor up the slopes, but the mountain responded immediately, smoothing, reshaping, adjusting, without removing the challenge. A whisper rose from the stone, keep going. He obeyed. As he climbed higher, he noticed small lights glowing in the grooves, traces of previous climbers. Not perfect, not effortless, but persistent. Some stones bore scratches where hands had slipped, some grooves showed marks of heavy falls. The boy realized that every effort, no matter how small, left a mark that shaped the mountain, making it climbable for the next traveler. The wind grew stronger, tearing at his hair, pushing against his chest. He stumbled, catching himself just before he could fall. The stone pulsed sharply, warning him, but he did not drop it. He straightened, inhaling sharply, and climbed again. Higher still, the peak remained shrouded in mist. The path narrowed, and a voice seemed to rise from the mountain itself, deep and resonant, show me your resolve. The boy paused, unsure if he could go further. His muscles screamed, his chest burned, and the stone weighed heavier than ever. He thought of all the paths he had walked, the failures he had faced, the circle of voices, the river, the garden, the gate. Each had demanded effort, patience, persistence. He took a deep breath. I will keep going, he whispered. Immediately, the path shifted slightly under his feet, giving him purchase. The stone pulsed warmly, urging him onward. The mist began to thin, revealing the mountain's peak, not sharp or towering, but flat, wide, and open, as if inviting him to stand there and see everything he had crossed. One final stretch of jagged stone rose before him, steeper than anything else. The wind howled, almost alive, tugging at his arms, his legs, even the stone. He stumbled again, sliding slightly, but the mountain held him steady. Every step required focus, balance, courage. Every step felt earned. Finally, the boy placed both hands on the last stone, pulled himself upward, and stood on the peak. The mist cleared. Below, the valleys, river, and paths stretched endlessly. Every place he had walked shimmered faintly, glowing with traces of his effort. Above, the sky stretched wide and endless. The stone in his hands pulsed softly, its glow steady. The wind shifted, and from the distance came a sound unlike any before, neither whisper nor voice, but something vast and deep, rolling over the peaks and valleys, calling him forward. The boy realized this was no ordinary call. It was the next challenge. One he could not ignore, and from the mist rising over the horizon, a massive shape began to emerge, moving slowly, deliberately, as if waiting to test whether the boy's courage and persistence could meet it. The horizon of becoming. The shape on the horizon moved closer, vast and silent, an immense form that seemed part creature, part mountain, its surface shifting as it advanced. The boy stood at the peak, stone in hand, heart pounding, every muscle tense. The wind whipped around him, carrying not cold, but a pulse of anticipation. It was unlike anything he had faced before. Not a path, not a mirror, not a tower. This was not a challenge he could navigate by careful steps or by looking to others. It was a presence, enormous and patient, demanding courage in its purest form. The boy lifted the stone. Its glow flared, warm and steady, as if reminding him of everything he had carried, everything he had learned. The air hummed in response. As the shape approached, the boy noticed it was not singular. Its surface shimmered with thousands of tiny reflections, each a version of him. Some versions stumbled, some fell, some rose tall and confident. They were all him, possibilities, past efforts, failures, attempts, courage, hesitation. All merged into one massive form that advanced steadily. A voice rolled across the peak, deep and resonant, not from the shape, not from the stone, but from the space between. Will you step forward? It asked. The boy swallowed. He remembered the garden, the tower, the river, the mountain. He remembered failure, persistence, silent efforts, the weight of trying. Every lesson, every scar, every heartbeat led to this moment. I will, he said, voice clear, even against the vast presence before him. The shape paused, almost imperceptibly, as if acknowledging the answer. Then it shifted, splitting into paths of light that stretched toward him. Each path felt different. Some smooth, some jagged, some twisting unpredictably. The boy realized this was the culmination of every step he had ever taken, a choice to act, to persist, to keep moving despite doubt. He stepped forward onto the first path. The ground beneath him responded, firm but yielding. The stone pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. As he moved, the reflections on the massive shape shifted, showing moments he had not yet lived, choices he could make, efforts he had not yet tried. Some terrified him. Others shone with possibility. The boy stumbled, almost losing his footing, and a reflection of himself fell alongside him, a silent echo of doubt. But he rose again, stone in hand, and continued. The path narrowed, twisting upward now, and he could see the horizon beyond, a place of light so vast it seemed endless. He realized that the horizon was not a destination, but a direction, a promise that the journey never truly ended. Each step forward made the reflections on the massive form behind him pulse brighter. Every act, every choice, every small effort left a mark, shaping not only the path before him, but the world itself. He glanced down at the stone. Its glow had steadied into a warm, unwavering light. The words on it shifted once more, simple, clear, unyielding. You are awesome. The boy smiled. Not because the stone told him so, but because he knew it to be true. Every step he had taken, every fall and rise, every attempt and persistence, had brought him here, to the understanding that effort, courage, and resilience were what made him remarkable. Ahead, the horizon stretched endlessly, inviting him onward. The path would not always be easy. There would be fear, fatigue, doubt. But he carried more than the stone. He carried every lesson, every attempt, every whisper of persistence from all the places he had passed. He took the next step forward, and then another. The wind rose, carrying the pulse of the mountain, the river, the tower, the garden. The horizon glimmered ahead, infinite and alive, full of challenges yet unseen, possibilities yet untried, and the boy walked on, not for reward, not for applause, not for certainty, but because trying, rising, and moving forward was the greatest adventure of all. The world awaited him, vast and unformed, and he was ready. If you enjoyed this journey, imagine what we could uncover next. Which audiobook should we explore together on Momentum Mind? Drop your suggestions in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a story that can change the way you think. Your momentum starts here.